In the last video, we talked a lot about how to frame problems in chemical thermodynamics, defining our system, defining the surroundings, things like this. And we kind of left open the question of where do we go from there? Once we've defined the system and surroundings, what do I do with that information? And the answer lies in the laws of thermodynamics. Once you've defined your system and surroundings and have a good sense of the process that's taking place, the laws of thermodynamics will be the next thing that you write down. And in this video, we're going to focus on the first law of thermodynamics, which is going to be relevant to the vast majority of thermodynamics and thermochemistry problems that you tackle. So we'll learn how to define and apply the first law of thermodynamics, and we'll provide technical definitions for heat and work and distinguish between them. We did that in the first video, but we're going to deepen our understanding of heat and work and the fundamental equivalence of those two things with energy in this video as well. You've probably heard the first law of thermodynamics expressed in everyday language using the idea that energy is conserved. The energy of the universe is conserved. We're going to go beyond just energy is conserved in this video and talk about limitations on the form of energy. Energy can, on some level, only fundamentally take one of two forms, either work or heat. And this is actually key to applying the first law when you get to a chemical context. This idea of energy is equal to the sum of heat and work. All right, so let's get into it. So we just mentioned that once we've defined our system and surroundings and the process of interest, the next step is typically writing down and applying the appropriate law or laws of thermodynamics. And needless to say, these are natural laws. All physically possible processes must abide by these laws. Everything we've ever observed since the beginning of the human race has had to abide by the laws of thermodynamics. And the first law concerns the nature of energy and places a fundamental constraint on energy. Two ways we can kind of frame it. The first, which is likely familiar to you, is energy is conserved. In all physically allowable processes, energy is neither created nor destroyed. The total quantity of energy in our universe is constant, is another way to say this. That's probably familiar to you, right? And is a highly intuitive idea from everyday life. What may be a little less intuitive or less familiar is the idea that for the internal energy of a system, thermodynamic system, be it chemical or otherwise, to change, that can only happen in one of two ways, either due to heat or work. Any change in internal energy, which we're going to represent as delta U, the letter U representing internal energy specifically here, is due to a heat transfer to or from the system and or work done on or by the system. And heat and work encompass all possible ways that energy can be transferred into or out of a thermodynamic system. We can actually express this in equation form using the technical definitions of heat and work that we mentioned earlier. Change in internal energy, delta U, that's the final internal energy at the end of a process minus the initial internal energy at the start of the process, is equal to the sum of Q, which is the heat, and W, which is the work. And this is a manifestation of the idea, again, that the only way we can achieve a delta U is via some combination of heat and work. There is no other way to accomplish energy transfer within a system. If you want a deeper conceptual understanding of the first law, the Wikipedia article on the first law of thermodynamics is a fantastic conceptual overview of the law with more examples and a bit of a deeper discussion of this equation right here. This equation is actually the most common way we'll apply the first law in solving thermodynamics problems. What we'll do is develop more specific expressions, mathematical expressions, for Q and W, perhaps with some missing quantities, and we'll solve for those missing quantities. Now let's talk a little bit about the sign conventions for heat and work based on this idea that delta U equals Q plus W. The signs of heat and work in chemical thermodynamics always reflect the idea, reflect the question of whether the energetic content of the system is going up or going down. When the energy content of the system is going up, heat and work are positive. When the energy content of the system is going down, heat and work are negative. So for example, if we take heat off the table for a second, positive work indicates that the surroundings are doing work on the system, and the system's internal energy is increasing as a result. This happens, for example, when a gaseous system is compressed. The work is positive. That actually follows from our definition of pressure, volume, work that we mentioned earlier. And the gas is increasing in energy. And in fact, we can see that, right? If we let go, if we push on a piston to compress a gas and then let go of the system, the piston, the gas will expand spontaneously, right? Releasing that energy that we just gave to it. And of course, the other side of the coin is negative W indicates that the system is doing work on the surroundings. The internal energy of the system is decreasing in that case. And that, for example, happens when a gas expands. It's doing work, the gas is doing work on the surroundings and losing internal energy as a result. If we now take work off the table and focus on heat, the ideas here are very, very intuitive. When we apply heat to a system, positive Q, that's going to, for example, raise the temperature of the system, and the internal energy of the system will increase as a result, right? On the other hand, if we cool a system or allow heat to be transferred out of a system, the heat will be negative and the internal energy of the system will decrease as a result. And again, we would see that manifest frequently as a decrease in temperature. So the sign of delta T matches the sign of delta U, generally speaking. Although something you'll discover in your first year chemistry courses is that not all heat transfers have to be accompanied by a change in temperature. I'll leave that as a lingering question, but this is something that you'll see come up in your introductory chemistry course for sure. All right, let's leave this module with some lingering questions. We just talked about the first law of thermodynamics. There are three other laws, the zeroth, second, and third laws of thermodynamics. What are they, and how do we apply them to solving problems? The first law says that energy is conserved, but doesn't seem to place any constraints on the form of energy. It seems like we should be able to convert, for example, a full quantity of potential energy entirely into kinetic energy, or we should be able to do some amount of work to achieve that exact amount of, say, heat increase. Can we fully convert heat into work, work into heat, or vice versa? Is that possible, or is that not possible? One of the laws of thermodynamics has something to say about that, and again, you'll get to that in your introductory chemistry course. You may have heard, if you've studied thermodynamics in the past, of important thermodynamic quantities like enthalpy, entropy, and free energy. These quantities, to some extent, come from the other laws of thermodynamics. What are they, and how can we apply them? You'll apply them again in your introductory chemistry courses, and what they allow us to do ultimately is sort of efficiently apply the laws of thermodynamics. For example, entropy and free energy come out of the second law of thermodynamics and allow for really efficient and quantitative application of that law in chemical thermodynamics problems.